Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Before starting the video, please subscribe and keep watching for more details videos. Coco Gauff and Aryna Sabalenka earn bold US Open claim as Grand Slam champion misses out. Iga Swiatek shut her haters down on the center court earlier this month. In a record-shattering Wimbledon final, she conquered grass with a brutal scoreline of 6-0. 6-0 against Aryna Sabalenka. It took her just 57 minutes to lift her maiden Venus Rosewater Dish trophy. After constant setbacks this season, despite repeated deep runs, the former world number one finally unleashed her might on the tennis court like never before. But that's a thing of the past. Swiatek is now the reigning Wimbledon queen. The world knows it. Still, a former ATP pro and top coach believes she may not grab another slam this season. Ahead of the US Open, a famed trainer has made a massive prediction for Swiatek's top two rivals, Coco Gauff and world number one Aryna Sabalenka, while snubbing her. Swiatek's journey was looking doubtful before Wimbledon. However, she turned things around in no time. That's how good her campaign was at the All England club, especially toward the final stages. In the semis, she thrashed Swiss pro Belinda with a 6-2. 6-0 scoreline before outclassing American Aryna Sabalenka in the Summit Clash. But when it comes to the US Open, Swiatek is not among the potential winners. At least that's what Jasmine Paolini's former coach and ex-Italian pro Renzo Furlan thinks. He recently came up with interesting names. Starting with men's category, he began. The US Open? Jannik and Carlos favorites. I expect a lot from the Americans. Paul and Fritz and / expect Baby Fonseca to express himself at high levels. And what about the WTA side? Making his prediction on US Open women's singles champion, Furlan simply told, among the women, Sabalenka and Gauff. It's interesting to note is that Sabalenka and Gauff are coming off a very forgettable campaign in London. While Sabalenka once again missed out on the chance to win at least one slam this season, following her loss in the semis, Gauff couldn't even last a week at the grass major. Ukraine's Diana Yastremska ousted her in the first round with a scoreline of 7-6-3. 6-1. The result sent shockwaves across the tennis world, since the American WTA star was riding high on the wave of her recent slam triumph in Paris. Sadly, she couldn't replicate it at Wimbledon. But guess what? Gauff's still shining bright. Despite the recent failure, her latest accomplishment may boost her morale ahead of the New York Challenge. Coco Gauff wins prestigious honor ahead of her US Open campaign. Last week, the world number two received the Best Tennis Player award at the 2025 ESPYs by ESPN. The event took place inside the Dolby Theater in Los Angeles, where the two-time slam queen won the top honor. Interestingly, Aryna Sabalenka was also nominated alongside her in the same category. But it was the American who finally took home the coveted trophy. While her entire season has been underwhelming in terms of results, Gauff's French Open victory played a key role in making her the best tennis player. For the uninitiated, she had won this award in the previous season too. Reacting to the win, she wrote on X, "Apparently I won an ESPY. Thank you. I am super grateful. I wish I could have attended. Thank you to everyone who voted." This achievement will undoubtedly lift her down spirits, especially after the huge Wimbledon setback. In New York, she's a former winner, so that will give her an additional push. Back in 2023, she became the first American teenager since Serena Williams in 1999 to win the US Open title. But the burning question is, can she do it again by wrapping up the season on a high? What are your thoughts about her prospects at Flushing Meadows? Let us know in the comments below. Under the bright New York skyline, where dreams are either fulfilled or fractured, the US Open once again transformed into the stage for tennis' most thrilling stories. This year, the script deviated from tradition. The headlines didn't simply belong to who lifted the trophy, but to who dared to claim the court as theirs. Coco Gauff and Aryna Sabalenka didn't just compete at the 2025 US Open. They announced themselves. In bold and brilliance, and with a kind of confidence only forged through trials of fire and courts of hard-earned victories. As these two queens marched toward glory, one familiar Grand Slam champion, long expected to light up Arthur Ashe Stadium, found herself watching from the sidelines. And thus, the story of the 2025 U.S. Open wasn't only about triumphs. It was about a new world order being cemented, about stakes that rose with every serve, and about how Gauff and Sabalenka finally silenced every remaining doubt. The rise of a new American hero. Coco Gauff's name has long danced on the lips of tennis fans and pundits. A prodigy since 15, she'd carried the burden of expectation with grace. But in the early days of 2025, something shifted. She wasn't just rising anymore. She had arrived. Coming off a summer of consistent wins and steely performances, Gauff entered the U.S. Open not just as a fan favorite, but a legitimate favorite for the title. Yet, what made this year different wasn't just her backhand precision or her breathtaking agility across the baseline. It was the way she owned the moment. Facing off against seasoned opponents, Gauff didn't blink. Her third-round comeback against the fiery Ukrainian Marta Kostyuk was the kind of match that separates stars from legends. Down a set, the crowd behind her, she summoned a resilience that echoed the greats. From there, each round became a testament to her tactical evolution and mental command. In her semifinal bout, she met Iga Swiatek, the Polish powerhouse who had often been her nemesis. But this wasn't the same Gauff. This time, Coco rewrote the script. She dictated points, anticipated Swiatek's patterns, and delivered a near-flawless third set to advance to the final. And then came the biggest test. Aryna Sabalenka, the lioness, roars again. While Gauff was proving her mettle in front of a patriotic crowd, Aryna Sabalenka was quietly crafting one of the most dangerous campaigns of the tournament. Her game, full of explosive serves, raw emotion, and punishing ground strokes, was often described as uncontrollable fire. But in 2025, that fire found form. After claiming the Australian Open earlier in the year and narrowly missing out on Roland Garros, Sabalenka was hungry, not just for another title, but for legacy. And the U.S. Open was her proving ground. Her run was clinical. Not a single set dropped until the semis, where she faced the rejuvenated Naomi Osaka. In a clash of titans, Aryna's sheer force met Osaka's rhythm. The match stretched over 2 hours, ending in a dramatic final set tiebreak, where Sabalenka screamed after the final point like a warrior finally breaking through a wall she'd been chipping at for years. She had made it to the final again. And across the net stood Gauff, the American sweetheart with the crowd at her back and the future at her feet. The final, a bold new era. The U.S. Open 2025 final wasn't just a match. It was a manifesto. 2 women, both under 27, embodying 2 different playing styles, 2 continents, 2 journeys, ready to define tennis for a new generation. From the first serve, it was electric. Gauff's movement and defense clashed with Sabalenka's raw power. Winners were met with roars, mistakes with gasps. The tension was not just in the score, but in what this match meant. After 2 sets split evenly, the final set was a war of attrition. Breakpoints saved, rallies pushing both to physical extremes. Sabalenka smashed a 123 miles per hour ace. Gauff chased down what should have been an unreachable drop shot. The crowd was hypnotized. And when it ended, with Gauff delivering a passing shot that brushed the line and dropped like destiny, the stadium erupted. Tears welled in both players' eyes. It wasn't just victory. It was validation. For both. Gauff had her second U.S. Open title. Sabalenka had further solidified her standing as the most formidable all-surface competitor of her era. But together, they had delivered something rarer than a trophy. They had claimed the moment. Boldly. Unapologetically. The Grand Slam champion who missed out. In the shadows of this meteoric rise stood a noticeable absence. Elena Rybakina, Wimbledon champion and widely regarded as one of the most dangerous women on the tour, failed to make the quarterfinals. Injury niggles and a tough early draw saw her bow out in the 3rd round, shocking many who expected her to at least challenge for the semis. Her exit sparked discussions. Had the game moved on without her? Or was this simply a pause in her journey? Rybakina's powerful but more stoic style, though still lethal, suddenly felt out of rhythm in a tournament dominated by emotional fire and energetic strategy. While she remains a force, the contrast with Gauff and Sabalenka was striking. This U.S. Open wasn't about silent strength. It was about loud heartbeats and bold strokes. And Rybakina, for all her past triumphs, missed the opportunity to stamp herself into the next chapter. The bold claim. In the post-match press conference, one journalist asked a seemingly simple question to Gauff. Do you believe this is your era now? She smiled broadly, without hesitation, and replied, I don't just believe it, I'm living it. Sabalenka, in her own session, added fuel to the fire. We're not waiting for a changing of the guard. We are the guard. Together, those quotes echoed beyond press rooms. They were repeated in sports talk shows, highlighted on social media, and whispered in tennis circles across the globe. Gauff and Sabalenka didn't just win. They claimed, in bold, a new rivalry for the ages. What made the 2025 U.S. Open unforgettable wasn't only the championship or the breakout performances. It was the sense that something had truly shifted. That Gauff and Sabalenka, as different as they are destined to lead the women's game into a thrilling new chapter. Gone is the fear of inconsistency. Gone is the notion that women's tennis lacks rivalries. Because now we have Gauff versus Sabalenka, power versus precision, fire versus focus, the lioness and the hometown heroine. And behind them, an entire sport ready to be redefined, the legacy in motion. As Gauff hoisted the trophy high and Sabalenka received her runner-up plate with grace and grit, it became clear. This U.S. Open wasn't a culmination. It was an origin story. For a decade, fans may look back at this very tournament and say, that was the moment women's tennis turned a page. Not because a Grand Slam champion faltered, but because two new titans didn't just rise. They roared.